All praises be unto the Most High.
Rastafari. Excuse me. Yeah. As we continue on here, we do have a special guest in the studio tonight. We do have Albert Bryant Jr. Let me click him on there. Wave to the crowd, Albert. You are streaming out live right now.
Good evening.
Everybody seeing you worldwide, but hopefully everybody here in the Virgin Islands is tuned in particular. Thanks for coming back to our studio again.
Oh, it's a great being here, man. Every time I come back here, it looks better and better, man.
Yeah, we're trying to hold it down, you know?
Persistent creates progress all the time.
We're trying to think, man. But thanks for coming through. You were here sometime early on when we first started many years back. But today you're here because you're running for the governor of the Virgin Islands.
That's absolutely right. Governor of the Virgin Islands. A lot of people in the race, but we've been working on this for quite some time now. We prepared, and we think we have the best team. And what we have to offer to the Virgin Islands is really substance and ideas, experience, education, and the ability to put people together and put them to work.
Okay. So when did you first decide you wanted to do this?
I will make you want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, what inspired you?
You know, from a very early age, I remember being in St. Dunstan's in high school and running for student government there. I always knew that I would take part in politics. I didn't quite know whether it would be a governor or a senator. Okay. But along the way, I always had an aspiration to help these islands. I think there's something about being a 60s child. You know, you're born in that era where you really have a social responsibility that has guided me over the years. You think about it in the 60s, Malcolm, Martin, Kennedy, a lot of people, the peace movement, the age of the boomers, a lot of vibe around then about education, about social responsibility, sort of like the millennial movement that we are experiencing right now. Wow, right. And growing up in that age, you know, I was really, I know the Virgin Islands was in a different period too, where we really exposed our young people to the islands. I remember programs on TV that talked about the government. People were really in touch with their senators, the governor, ceremonies and stuff on the islands, really, really high. So a really high sense of Virgin Islands pride that was created and a responsibility to the people who helped you along the way. Because, I mean, I grew up in Savannah and St. Thomas, and, you know, my dad, you know, they grew up next to Jew graveyard. I don't know how much people know where that is. But essentially, everything was done outside. You used to bathe outside. You know, the house was essentially for sleeping. And, you know, education was highly valued because, and people who were educated were revered. For me to go, I could remember me going to college, and my father, I'm a junior, he's named just like me, was so proud of me receiving that, you know, that bachelor's degree, because he had trained so many people, you know, to be his boss, and he said that I would never do that. I would get that degree. And I remember when I got my master's degree, MBA here, and he said, you know, when are we going to get our doctorate? That value for education, that pride in our islands, and that respect as being, you know, that was afforded the leaders at that time. I mean, that in that time, you know, politicians weren't looked at as scampish and thieves and, you know, charlatans. People really respected them because they respected the community. They lived close to the community. It didn't have a Facebook and stuff. You had to go out and press the flesh.
Yes.
And in order to gain that level of respect, you had to do community service. So I spent a lot of my time over the years doing the community service and earning my way to ask the people of the Virgin Islands for their vote for governor of the Virgin Islands.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, so you had aspirations of being governor before, because you're the ex-commissioner of the Department of Labor here. So before that, I mean, you felt like at some point, you know, you would want to run? Absolutely.
I felt that I always wanted to do, you know, I've been in the private sector, then public, then private, then public again. And one of the reasons why I keep exiting the private sector is that I feel such a commitment to these islands. And I always want to feel like my work is achieving something more than just cash. So yeah, I prepared myself along the way to do this, but I always thought I'd run for the Senate. But the way that my career exploded and the things that I do and what I did and was exposed to, it ended up in a situation where number one, I realized that the Senate wouldn't afford me the management part that I really like, because people think the Senate is preparation to run for governor. The Senate is preparation if you want to be a politician, right? You learn the political process, how to campaign. But really, being a commissioner, running a department in government is kind of the best way to go at it, because then you have...
Right. Hold on.
We have a call coming in.
People calling already?
Yeah, someone's calling in here. Hold on 1 second here. It's Your Perspective Talk Show. David speaking. Hello? Okay, we lost you.
Call back.
Call back. That was a 340 number.
340-201-9005.
So being a commissioner, you learn how departments work, you learn how to manage budgets, you learn about implementation, you learn about policy. I think it's a great preparation. Going back to school and making sure I had my education, serving on key boards like the Port Authority. I was the chairman of the Government Development Bank for 8 years, as well as the Economic Development Authority, Children's and Family Council, the Workforce Information Board. So gearing up that experience, because if you listen to the governor MAP, right? When he went into office in 2015, his first State of the Territory address, you could have sworn that this guy wasn't campaigning for the job. He started talking about all the problems like he discovered them when he became the governor, when in reality, these are the problems that he campaigned on all the time.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to be the kind of person that's going to go and take the helm and say, oh, I didn't know that our bond rating was terrible and that our healthcare system is decimated and that our education system is on split session. You need to do your research before to understand how these pieces in government work and why, most importantly, they don't work.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So let's get into your platform. Give us the three areas that you think that you feel that could help us.
So
we're talking like tourism. There's agriculture. I mean, how can we sort of elevate ourselves here?
So the way that my platform is divided is non-traditional, just like most of the things that I do. So there's 4 basic legs of my platform.
Okay.
The first one is to stabilize government and restore transparency and trust.
Okay.
This is important because if you have a vision, if I tell you that there's a gold mine behind a pueblo, in order for me to get you to move towards that gold mine, you have to believe and trust in me. And people simply don't trust the government.
Okay.
Stabilizing the government means getting the departments to work again. We have a central government structure that does not work. And if you work in government, you understand that our personnel system doesn't work. Our procurement system doesn't work.
Okay.
It takes a year to get a contract through this system. One of the reasons why the governor has a state of emergency now is because he doesn't have to go through the procurement process. He could just sign a contract and off you go. So stabilizing the government, so stabilizing the government allows things. So if you come for a permit or a business license, it should be a day process. We have a system we want to implement. It's called No Chair Needed. So my standard for the Brian Roach administration will be that you don't have to go into a government office and sit in a chair unless you want to. Everything should be able to be done over your phone. Now, that's online. A high standard.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's where we are moving to in the world.
Yes.
So we stabilize the government and restore trust. Once people trust us, we can go out and recruit new business and incentives to the Virgin Islands. Right?
So some people seem to feel that, as you put more technology into play, like they do in the States,
right?
People will lose their jobs.
No.
Any thoughts on that? I mean, will that happen? I mean, 1 or 2 maybe?
The thing that people don't realize is that technology actually creates more work because it makes everything move faster. And I'll give you an example. If 30 years ago, 20 years ago, if I wanted something I was a commissioner of labor, I wanted something from a commissioner of procurement, I'd have to draft a letter, my secretary would type it, and then I would review it, edit it, she would retype it again, sign it, then he would put it in an envelope and send it to him. His secretary would open it and read it, put it in a file to read, and then he put it on his desk, and then the same process. So by the time that response is given, 6 days to 10 days, maybe 14 days have passed. Now I can do that in an instant with an email. I can text them over the phone. So it means that the whole process has to move faster. So you need more people to get the efficiencies out of it. And now computers, 20 years ago, people thought computers would wipe out the workforce. It hasn't happened. What has happened, though, it has transformed our nation into a service industry, and it hasn't been successful in changing our education system, because now we no longer need factory workers, which is what our education system is designed to do. Teach people to put this over there, like a robot.
Yeah.
Now it needs critical thinking skills. You have to add value to the process.
Okay.
And in government, I think that's what we need to do. We have done the people of the Virgin Islands a great disservice, because over the years we have not invested the training, the exposure to technology. And I'm talking about for the rank and file, to build our workforce so that our people can go anywhere and compete. When they move themselves, or they're moved out of the system, they're kind of like in a culture shock now, because what's going on over here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying out of the system into the Virgin Islands, out of the Virgin Islands into the global market.
Okay.
But I give you the 2 points. So we get the recruiting. We got 5 different types of recruiting business programs. We spend about $800,000 a year telling people we have business open here.
Okay.
Right? We spend $20 million a year to get tourists here. To come one time. A business that come will be here for years, employ people, pay taxes, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
Once we do that, number 3, putting people to work.
Okay.
Putting our people to work and make sure that we collect those taxes. And if people don't realize, in the Virgin Islands, the wages are so low, it continuously destabilizes our economy. The minute those ships or those planes stop flying, we're at a standstill.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we're concentrating on working on poverty. Poverty is killing the Virgin Islands. Like I was telling you before the clip came on, 80 people pay 40% of the income taxes. So $126 million in income tax is paid by 80 people. People wonder why there are so many people not getting returns. Well, there are too many people getting returns and not enough people paying taxes.
Yeah.
How do you work on that? You got to build people up. So that number 3 point is kind of getting our people ready and getting them for the workforce. And then number 4, once we collect those tax dollars and our economy is streaming, we reinvest them in our infrastructure, in our schools, in our healthcare system. And now I have some thoughts around how all that goes on, but at the bottom line, it's about message, management, and money.
Okay.
Messaging that we're opening for business, managing the money, getting the money that we need, and then managing that money to make the maximum income impact in our economy and in our social stratosphere.
Okay.
Well, as a governor, Brian, if when you say managing the money, because there was a talk about couple years ago about a CFO to come in here with these monies coming in, because of the same thing that keep happening. The money keep coming in, they sit there wherever it sits at, and then the money gets sent back, and we keep seeing that happening repeatedly over and over again.
Right.
So how are we going to make this system actually work and make it happen? How are we going to see it?
Because it sounds like the core of what you're trying to change will be a sort of a total change for the way the government is.
A total change.
Okay.
Change course now.
Okay. So
so how do you do that, right? I told you central government is broken. Central government's supposed to function. You have all these departments that depend on procurement, BIT, finance, personnel, OMB to do the work. So if you need to purchase something, you go to procurement. Over the years, what has happened is every department has gotten all these departments embedded into their specific divisions. So everybody has a procurement, everybody has a personnel, everybody has a OMB of sorts in their office.
Within their department.
Right. So now automatically you've replicated costs, right?
Okay.
And then those agencies now serve as regulatory bodies rather than facilitators. So when you send a contract to procurement, they're not putting the contract together to make it move faster. They're telling you it isn't signed right. You need another quote. They're regulating the process.
Okay.
So you got to fix that part of central government.
Okay.
The second part of it is over the years, in the Farrelly administration, we actually had policymakers. Commissioners are not, they're CEOs. Assistant commissioners are chief operating officers. they're the ones that are supposed to actually run the department. The
Okay.
commissioner is vision, budget. Are we on track for our mission? How do we get more resources?
Okay.
What are the policies of the department that have to be implemented? That hasn't happened. So what you have is you have a commissioner working every day, managing a department, and meanwhile the policy goes away. That's why every time we get a new governor, we get a new commissioner, everything changes because there's nothing in writing.
Yeah.
So you destabilize the government process.
Okay.
Add to that the exempt service where you fire everybody every time somebody gets elected. You have to put back in a real merit system so that these exempt director people, they don't move unless they don't do their job.
Yeah. I got
Right?
you.
And they get their job because they're a professional in MAP or they're a
They're
professional in
qualified.
food stamp. Exactly.
They're qualified.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
you witnessed this as being commissioner of labor? I mean,
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I would go, it's so funny. And it's not, this is the problems that we have. I would go now, I do training, and you'd go to department and from department to department, and I could tell people what's wrong in their department. They'd be like, well, how you know? I said, well, it's wrong in every department.
oh, got you. I got you.
One of the things I'll show you, people complain about the audit that was done on labor. That's a big thing now. People say, oh, well, this audit, this audit. The things in the audit that they found about labor were connected to finance. The Department of Labor doesn't write the policy for the government for finance. The Department of Finance does. Procurement is done by the Department of Property and Procurement. If you look at education, you know education has been in receivership for years. Not because of the Department of Education. They fixed all their problems. But the problems connected with OMB, finance, procurement, they're the ones that are having problems, the audits being up to date, that helps the department. So me, for 8 years, I looked at the system. I saw the flaws, the things that I could change in my department, I did. But there's some huge problems that no one is talking about. The classification system, so many employees working out of class and not being paid.
Okay.
There's a lot to fix.
Okay. So I got to ask this question.
Ask it.
You're running for governor. We have a present governor. I mean, have you sat around and just thought you listened to the present governor make a statement and thought, I wouldn't have said that, or maybe I would have done that.
Right.
I mean, any thoughts on that?
I mean, for the present governor, the thing that I think about most about him is that he seems like his time has passed. Remember, he ran 3 times. And when he was, that's 12 years. So the last time he was in government was, there was 8 years of DeYoung, 8 years of Turnbull. So that's 16 years since he's been in government last.
Okay.
When he was in government, right, there was a different economic landscape, and we could pick and choose who our economic development benefits people were, because people were trying to get in here. It's different now.
Okay.
We're in competition with the entire Caribbean. When he was in government, tourism, we were number one. We were the only kid on the block booming. We could say, no, we don't need another pier in St. Thomas. We could say, no, we don't want a hotel.
Yeah.
It's a different race now. Every Caribbean island is in competition. When he was governor, we had Hovensa, Hess Oil, pumping oil, making money. Cruise and Rum was making money. We had watch factories, the alumina plant. Now, we don't have that anymore. We have to change our mentality from that of a protectionist state to one where we attract new investment.
Okay.
So we cannot afford, in any instance, to let any investment pass by unless it's detrimental to our people or to our reputation as a territory.
Okay.
As a businessman, the EDC's company that comes in here into the territory.
Right.
I don't know what is the specification and what is the qualification for them to get in, but it seems to me like these companies are making all these millions, but they're not contributing back into the community.
Not enough.
Maybe not enough. They are contributing, but it's just like a set amount. We're just talking numbers. Just say $25, and they're making
billions and billions of dollars.
20 million a month, 90 million a month.
Who do you think those 80 people I told you about who pay that 40% of our income taxes. What people don't understand about the EDC company, Albert Bryan moved Albert Bryan Corp here to the Virgin Islands. Albert Bryan Corp gets a 90% tax benefit, right? Mm-hmm. But Albert Bryan have businesses in China, in Trinidad, in United States, in Canada. All that other money gets taxed full. Mm-hmm. So you've had one taxpayer under the EDC program contribute as much as $40 million in taxes. Mm. And when you look at Puerto Rico, what they were trying to do is to attract people of high net worth. Why? Because those people pay taxes on their worldwide income to Puerto Rico. Mm. If we have the same type of system where we're attracting companies, we have three strategies. We're attracting some companies because we want high net worth individuals that are going to add to our tax packages. We're attracting companies because we feel they're at our economic core and they will create jobs. And then we're attracting companies that create industry and offer new opportunities to Virgin Islanders where they haven't been. So every company can have the same. And then fourthly, we have to compete in the tourism market. So the way that I look at the Virgin Islands is that everything belongs to the Virgin Islands. The ports, the hotels, the shopping centers. When we go to compete, if we're gonna compete with, we're gonna offer let's say Carambola. Mm. A Carambola vacation in the Virgin Islands is $300 a night plus $150 a night for dinner, another $100 for cab fare, versus a all-inclusive in Jamaica, which is $200 a night. Everything is on the resort. The Carambola vacation, you're going to get an attendant that's going to serve you. That makes the Virgin Islands minimum wage, which will be $10.25 an hour. In Jamaica, the minimum wage is $50 a week. So you're comparing an employee that makes $400 a week to an employee that makes $50 a week. We can't compete unless we offer the benefits. So having Carambola get benefits now allows people a cheaper rate so people could come into Carambola. Once they're here, they shop, they eat, they drink, they do whatever. Right. But the most important thing is bringing people on island, because once they're here, they can't get food over the internet. They can't see the tours over the internet. Yeah. They got to shop.
They got to shop, yeah. So are you in favor of maybe more hotels? You know that St. Thomas has tons of hotels, and we have our set here on St. Croix, but are you in favor of like maybe one or two more bigger conference type hotels here?
So first of all, right, St. Thomas don't have that many hotels. Think about it. The only thing we have in St. Thomas is a Marriott and a Ritz and a Best Western. Flags. We have more hotels, but really, the flags, the big flags, Marriott, Ritz, those are the ones that bring. We lost the Rosewood out of Caneel Bay, right?
Okay.
We lost the Wyndham off of the Sugar Bay property. So St. Thomas, as big as it is, has two major flags and one little one, Best Western. Okay. St. Croix has one major flag, which is the Marriott, right?
Okay.
People like flags because business travel in the States awards points. When you take your points and you travel, you can stay at the Marriott for the week.
Yeah.
Free, yeah. So in St. Croix, I think for me, when I look at tourism, two things. We need a definitive tourism strategy. And the one that I would like, and I'm no tourism professional by any sense of the word, but the way that Tregenza look at and I look at this is longer stay, bigger spend, longer day, right? Longer stay. You get people. I much rather a tourist who's coming for 7 days rather than somebody who coming on a cruise ship for 8 hours, right? Longer stay, longer day. So we need to have our local people who have talent in music, arts, entertainment, mukojumbi, fire walking, whatever. Create activities so that tourists don't go to the hotel at 5 o'clock and then eat dinner and go to bed. Yeah. We want to keep them out longer into the night because they continue to spend, right? I said longer day, longer stay, more spend. We want to get the tourists that have money and have money to spend. So we want to make sure that we're attracting a level of tourists that really have money to put into the economy, because St. Thomas is our tourism mecca. It's but only so big. So there is a capacity to the amount of money that we could spend on the island. St. Croix is an emerging market as far as tourism, right? If we're going to build it as a tourism destination, let's build it as one where people want to play golf, go deep sea fishing, dive in, stay 7 days, rent a villa, drop $10,000 in dinner and entertainment in Christiansted or Frederiksted, but dying to come back for more.
Okay.
Right?
So are you in favor of, I know there's been some talk about dredging the Christiansted Harbor area there. Do you know about that?
Absolutely. I was on the Port Authority board. I mean,
Are you in favor of them doing that?
Yeah, it's 4 years old, more than that. 5-6 years ago, we were on the Port Authority board authorizing the money to get that Schooner Bay Channel dredged, and up to now it's not dredged. You know that the Christiansted port in Gallows Bay, we were supposed to have already turned that into the kind of port that could receive people. You know, it's over 15 years now or so that the Port Authority went into the deal with that group who wanted to do a marina there and develop that whole area. Remember?
Yeah.
They moved all that stuff off of the dock and out into Crouse Lagoon over there on the South Shore. But these things haven't happened.
Yeah.
We got to make things happen. So
Okay.
yes, we need to. Christiansted, I think, is a beautiful downtown destination for people coming off the cruise ship. You know, there was always a plan to extend that boardwalk all the way to Gallows Bay.
Yeah.
And then, you know, people want to come to St. Croix. They come to the Virgin Islands. They want to eat some fungi and some fish. They don't want to eat the same stuff they've been eating all the time. You know?
Because I a few years back, I had an opportunity to work for one of the cruise lines. And so I've been on a lot of these ships traveling around. And so, you know, I see at times the amount of people that potentially get off here.
Right.
Which is a small amount compared to the 4,000 or 5,000 that are on the ship.
Right.
So how do we get more people off? We got to get more people off.
One of the things in my platform is regional collaboration. Two things. I think that
amongst who did
the Caribbean
or just
the Caribbean.
Okay.
Okay.
The Caribbean, because we definitely have been pitted against one another by the cruise industry.
We don't do business.
Right. We don't talk to one another.
Right.
So we need to be able to speak to one another across the Caribbean in terms of organizing and helping and assisting one another in the tourism business, because what we have now are floating islands. I mean, these ships are getting bigger and bigger, and they have everything on board. So people, and that's their goal. The cruise ship goal is
want nobody to
spend
everything right to come on board.
It's just like the resorts. They want you to stay in the resort and keep spending.
You spend the money there.
Right. So we have to, I mean, in St. Thomas, I think we need to refresh our product. The way that we treat tourists, I really like to call it engineered tourism, where we actually engineer the tourist route through the island, where they get off, who goes to what dock. And I always use the example of Disneyland. When you go to Disneyland, you know, when you get off the ride, you're in the gift store. So even if you try to escape without buying that Goofy doll or that Mickey Mouse doll, your kid, he comes off the ride right there. That's how we need to have our tourism. So, you know, when you're on Main Street, right, or you come downtown Christiansted, and you're walking and it starts to get hot, guess what? We have a trolley driving around, a little town tour. You could cool off for a little while. You're not going back to the ship. We're keeping you in town until you cool off a little bit, right? And then when we drop you off, we're dropping you off right by a restaurant where it's nice and cool, the air conditioning coming out of there, because you're thirsty now, you want something to eat. When you walk in, bathrooms. Remember, you know, we're catering to the boomers now, right? They're in their 60s and their 70s. They have to go to the restroom. If I'm not going into a town where I can't use a clean restroom. That's a simple thing that will keep people on the ship.
Keep you away.
And new attractions. I'm proud to say that one of my clients just got approved for benefits, Carambola zip line. So we're gonna have a zip line in St. Croix pretty soon. I'm really excited about that.
That's a good tourist attraction.
It is a great tourist attraction.
And Donga Carambola too. The location is nice.
And you know what's beautiful about that? They land in the golf course. You know, that Carambola golf course, I'm a little biased. I like golf. But golfers spend money. You know, divers spend money. You know, you talk to the tourism commissioner and she'll tell you the deep sea fishing are one of the biggest spenders. But we have to have those accommodations. We're getting some nice resorts, some nice resort type villas here in St. Croix. We need to build more of those, but we need, like you were talking, David, we need to get that hotel built.
Yeah, because I think from many people that I've spoke to, I think even the young ladies last week, I think the concept is that you build a hotel so that the airlines know that you have a certain amount of rooms, which then attracts travelers to come down. So, I mean, at some point, we got to put up a hotel. I mean, the process has to start.
But we have to commit as a government, and we've been talking to some developers, and what they've been telling us is, if the government will commit to filling the seats on the airline, they could start to talk about building a hotel. But you got to realize people got to be gun shy at this point.
What do you mean in terms of the government commit?
Yeah.
So
what is that?
Okay,
yeah.
so right, that in order to get flights down, you want a new flight, you're going to say, okay, we're going to commit that you're going to get 60% of your plane filled.
Okay.
Right? And what they do are Beverly Nicholson Doherty, great wisdom. She's my cabinet member. I'm claiming her. Right. What they do instead of paying for the seats is that they offer the same amount of money in free hotel rooms at the Buccaneer. So instead of paying the airline, they pay the Buccaneer.
Gotcha.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So now people are incentivized. Listen, I'm a flight to the Virgin Islands. Guy could stay for the week free.
Yes.
And that way you get them here. The seats don't come empty. You get them here and they experience the island. They want to come again.
Okay.
So if you want to build a hotel, you got to be able to, number one, sit down as the governor of the Virgin Islands and commit to the developer, to the people who are financing, whether it's private placement or however they're going to finance the hotel, that you're on board. One of the things that I think this administration has harmed our reputation in ways, because you look at the Island Crossing project. When you make a commitment as a governor, as a board member, you make a commitment for the Virgin Islands, not for John DeYoung or Ken Mapp or Albert Bryan, but you have to honor the commitment moving forward. This is a governor who didn't like the Diageo deal, and I put them through some great misery as a result of it. That's a deal made by the Virgin Islands and ratified by the Senate. You have to honor it. So if we're moving forward, we now have to assure developers who have seen people invest millions of dollars in pre-development costs and get their project kicked down or never even start. So that's a part about stability in government and having this constant message that says, we are open for business, we are going to hold your hand, and we're going to walk you through to make sure that you get your stuff, not only through the local process, the Army Corps, but also to your financiers and your investors as well, too.
Okay. Let me ask you a question about tourism. So I would assume that you're probably more in favor of more ships coming here. Is that anything possible that that you can get control of?
I think this is
and the reason I say that is because I go over to St. Thomas once a month or so, and I'm just amazed at the 4 or 5 ships that are there.
Well, you know why though. I mean, St. Thomas is a strategic location between Puerto Rico, Florida, and the Caribbean, and the way that the ships fall. What nobody talks about, though, is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday when there are no ships there. Yeah. When we have ports sitting empty because of how the cruise ships. So, not to talk about St. Thomas, but to say that we need to get ships that fall on those off days. One proposal that I have that to help St. Croix and the tourism is, and I came across this idea because I saw the ships out there for FEMA. What if the government of the Virgin Islands says, I'm going to send out an RFP for a 300 passenger or 400 passenger ship that stays on St. Croix 3 days out of the week or 4 days out of the week, and then when the traffic in St. Thomas goes low, it goes to St. Thomas, right? And maybe even with the BVI, maybe on one day it goes over to Tortola and then it comes back. So here's a ship now that you could catch from any island, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Thomas, St. Croix, or Tortola. Okay. You could fly into either one, see all three, right? And still keep money in the Virgin Islands. It's called multi-destination tourism. Okay. And I came across the idea because if St. Croix was 20 more miles closer to St. Thomas, we could take advantage of that 1.8 million tourists that come to St. Thomas, because if they're tired of getting out of that port they could still get off, catch a ferry, bomb day in St. Croix, and get back. Virgin Islands still make the money. St. Thomas retains their port. All is well, but it's not. So strategically, we have to think how to get the islands closer together and how to make it so that people get to experience the uniqueness of each one. I think that St. Croix too, we were going along at a good clip in terms of the sacrifices that were made in order to get cruise ships here. I was in the room when John DeYoung told the Board of WICO and the Board of Port Authority that they were going to sacrifice in order to put ships in St. Croix. And that's what he did. Whether you like the last governor or not, I was there. It's nothing I heard. I was there when it happened. We're going to have to figure out a way to make St. Croix different enough from St. Thomas that people feel that they're having a different experience. The other thing we're going to have to do is the reason why St. Thomas is such a destination is as soon as you reach there, you're up on a hill, you have the beautiful vistas and stuff. Let's partner with the cruise lines to put something in Frederiksted, right? So that they win when they come to St. Croix. We had the opportunity for Crown Bay. I don't know if you remember that long, that Carnival actually was going into a partnership with us. And as a payoff for the investment in Crown Bay, they were also going to do something in Frederiksted.
Okay.
So I think the one way, and it's going to be a constant theme in the Brian Roach administration, is partnering with private sector professionals that will bring business to our islands.
Okay.
We don't know anything about cruise ships, but we certainly know about ports and managing the tourists when they come here. So if they are a stakeholder in the survival of Frederiksted and St. Croix, they're going to bring the tourists here because they're going to make money when they come off the ship, right?
Come off the ship, yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
All right.
You had a question, Sue?
Well, agriculture. How can agriculture be an investment here to the territory to make it an economic boom for us here?
Yeah. Because one of the things that my thought is that we have tourism, but we need something else, another industry besides tourism to sort of lift the economy up. We're in debt. We need another source of revenues coming in. I mean,
food is one of the most important things in society. We ain't not feeding ourselves. We have the land, we have the air, we got the perfect weather for it, and it seems like we just make it one of the lowest budgets too.
Yeah.
So the first thing I think, a couple of things we have to do. All the things that I am passionate about, I've worked on while I wasn't a commissioner. So I have a client that we worked on. We got actually a $2 million grant for agribusiness aquaponics center in St. Croix. The money has been sitting for 2.5 years because the MAP administration can't get it together and get a lease issued to put down the center. Believe it or not, the client is putting up $500,000 of their own to train Virgin Islanders how to manage their own 2,000-foot aquaponics greenhouse.
Okay.
So part of agriculture is, number one, adopting new technologies, just like aquaponics, and making agriculture interesting and inviting. It's changing the idea of how people think about agriculture. It's not only food. Herbs and spices are big money. You get a lot. Basil, which grows here wild. I was thinking like lemongrass grows like guinea grass, but nobody harvests lemongrass, right? Aloe is a very, very expensive item. People pay big money for it. And then secondly, dealing with secondary agricultural products. One of the things that I wasn't successful at, that we tried hard to do while I was at the EDA, was to create an industrial kitchen. That is going to be something that, as governor, I will be able to do it. And that industrial commercial kitchen will be able to be leased out to entrepreneurs that maybe you might need to make 1,000 bottles of pepper or jam or jelly or whatever. You could use that kitchen. You need to, because part of our problem is mass production.
Yes. Mass production.
So people don't have $100,000 to invest in an industrial kitchen. But if there's a private placement, the government helps build it, and then you send out an RFP to manage it. It could be another manufacturer, and then people are able to do that. Agriculture, in terms of being able to have quantity, one of the things that I would like to see my agriculture commissioner do is a fruit census, and what that would do is you would get a grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce to actually GPS every fruit tree by house. So if you got 2 mango tree, a papaya tree, and a soursop, that'll be in a database for all 3 islands. So at any time of the given year,
that will continue to grow, you know.
Huh?
That will continue to grow.
That would continue to grow. It would grow, but what would happen is, so next year when avocado season come, we just go to the computer and it'll GPS location tell us where every avocado tree is. After the second year, you will know what avocado trees bear when. And what you would be able to do is to get students or a private business and go out and collect all the avocados, all the mangoes, and then pay the people who have the yard, who own the trees, some of the money for this fruit. So we could start freezing the fruit for smoothies and being able to process tamon and soursop. Because right now, I would be able to say at least 60% of all the fruit that bear on these trees fall off and rot.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
and then I got laughing. My wife, you see, she go to Casiles and buy frozen mango and put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are opportunities there.
Okay.
And then really, we have a lot of people that like farming. Liking farming isn't the equivalent of being a business person.
That's right.
We need people who are not hobbyists, but people who are business people and are interested in cutting a profit. And you could like farming, but partner with somebody who is a business person so you could start to turn that profit. I think agriculture is not going to create the jobs or the shift that we need to really balance the economy. I think that comes in with the internet.
Okay.
Service jobs, and that piece that you read, man, when you to bless the.
Yes, sir.
I did a whole presentation on human capital. In the 21st century, it's not gold and diamonds and all these things. It's human capital. It's the ability to create an idea like Facebook and make billions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's the ability to create Uber. So ideas are worth money. So now we have to invest in our minds, just like the passage that you read talked about. Investing in the infrastructure of our education and teaching our kids how to really function in this world. I give an example. My campaign manager hates when I say this, but I'll say it. Spanish, a foreign language, has been part of the curriculum for years. You got to take Spanish before you graduate. Okay, right? They have stuff now you could stick in your ear, it'll translate any language for you. So you could talk to anybody and they have one in their ear. It's translating Chinese to English. Yours translating English to Chinese. Yeah. Right? Why aren't we teaching our kids about cybersecurity, internet protocols, how apps work? So if the basis of the entire economy in the world is going to be technology, why isn't technology a standard part of the education? Like every kid in the Virgin Islands now, imagine if you had to take a cybersecurity course to graduate from high school, immediately you have a marketable skill. Yeah. Right? We're still stuck in an age that has gone by. We need to look at it and saying, what are we preparing Virgin Islanders for? Right? We're preparing them to work. Do you know what the two number one jobs in the Virgin Islands are? Cashier and security guard. Is that what we're training our kids up for? Or are we training them up to take advantage of this $120 million investment we have in fiber optics? Yeah. How do we get companies down here to invest in our university and train people up and say, we're gonna be the premier island in the Caribbean for technology, and we're gonna have the best cybersecurity specialists in the Caribbean. That is vision. And if we're able to do those kinds of things, that human capital will attract the economic activity that we need. If we get that economic activity, the average household income will rise. If the average household income rises, we collect taxes. If we collect more taxes, we pave the roads. But you know what we worry about? Paving the roads instead of developing the human capital.
Okay.
So
let me ask you a question here about technology. So when you talk about technology, are you envisioning that like sort of the entire government is online? Because in the States you can do pretty much anything. You can start your business online. You can re-register your car online.
Right.
I mean, is this sort of what you're thinking about doing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've been out of labor for 3 years now, and I have two businesses. One is a consulting group, and the other one is a recruiting agency. And
Recruiting in terms of
finding people for these companies. Yeah, they say they can't find people. Virgin Islanders specifically. So I work out of my phone. I mean, my phone is a fax. It's a teleconference. It's a scanner. It does everything. I mean, anything you could think of, I could do on my phone. It's a calculator.
Remember, the average man ain't gonna be able to afford them kind of phones right now, too.
No, man. Listen. With $40, you can buy a Kindle, which could do all of that, right?
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean that's the other thing. The price of technology is getting so
it's coming down.
Cheap.
It's coming down a little bit.
Okay, so if you're able now to operate with the efficiency, this is the other part of my plan. If you can work from anywhere, why not work from here? And we have such beautiful weather, right? People would love to live here. We love to live here, right?
Yeah, of course.
If we can train a core of telecommuters, right? We have a lot of people in the Virgin Islands that work in the States, but they live in the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
They get up in the morning in their pajamas and they go to work, and you see them around and you were like, what are you to do, And nobody knows what they do because they never see them in a business place, but they work from home. Some people work odd hours because they serve foreign countries, so they go to work at 8 o'clock in the night and work till 4. Those are opportunities that are available to us. But I'll show you my neighbor, right? His office is in Vermont. He lives in the Virgin Islands. All his clients are in California. But guess what? He had to move because we don't have a communication system that allows us to connect after the storm.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's
one of our biggest things right here, right now, because it seems like the hubs comes in here through the Virgin Islands, right? To go to spread to the world, and then the Virgin Islands seem like you get left out to being the last part of that technical hub. We seem to get the not to say in the shitty end of the stick.
But if you have leadership that doesn't understand the power of technology, you think about it. You know how much tax dollars we have lost because people can't use the cards because there's no internet service.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, think about it. And listen, look, the real merchants have adopted now. All of them now have these portable handheld, right?
Yes.
That are wireless.
Yes.
Right? You see how crisis forces change?
Right.
And we could have done that a long time ago. My vision for the Virgin Islands would be, it won't be the first, but it'll be among the first, completely wireless internet system for everyone for free. So everyone in the Virgin Islands will be able to access 1 megabit, right, of internet access. That means that every kid could do their homework. That means that everybody could read the email. That means that every tourist that comes here can access our information. But what happens when you get a little bit of internet? Don't you want a lot more? If you get 5, you want 10. You get 10, you need 25. You get 25, you need 50.
Yes.
It drives the economy too. So it's going to introduce a lot of people to the net. We only have like 36% or something like that penetration on Facebook. We need to get to 80%. We need to teach our people, yes, you can reach out to the world and you can reach out to your friend in Grove, but you can also reach out to your friend in China. You can get a value add product and you could sell that to your friends in Kansas. And it has never been easier to open your own business. But we're not teaching children how to do it.
But the process takes forever here. This is the whole thing that's running everybody from doing it.
It's not running everybody from doing business.
Not everybody, but
it's running people from registering their business,
right.
which is costing us money.
Right. You understand? Because they're not paying the taxes and everything to come up with that. So we have to simplify this process. Because I hear some of my friends say they go to Atlanta or they go to New York. In a day, they get all the business license that they need. Boom, and tomorrow they open up the business. Here, it sits down for 2 months, 3 months before anything gets done. Before anything moves.
So here's my test as governor, right? The question you have to ask yourself, would we be doing it this way if we had 1 million people? Right? That's the question. So if we had 1 million people on St. Thomas, would we make people drive the car down and get it inspected every year to one place on the island? Would we do that?
No,
We wouldn't do that.
No.
If we had 1 million people, would the governor sign every NOPA? If we had 1 million people, would we send every zone change to the Senate, every lease? If we had 1 million people, would we be forcing people to come in to register for stuff and sit down in offices? We wouldn't. The problem is we have to think ahead. How? Because if we make it, I'll give you an example. Food stamps. You have to go in and register, sit down every couple of weeks or months or whatever. That takes people out of their job. You know, if you just get a job, you got to go down, go re-register up. That's costing them money.
Yeah.
If you got to go register your kid, it's costing the employer money because you're not at work. But if you could register your kid for school over the phone, I'm scanning all the information and send it to them. It's coming, people, whether you like it or not. While I was at Labor, we were in the process of creating electronic files for the entire department. Why? Because when you have an audit and you say, I spent $10,000 sending David to school. If I can't find that file, somebody were in a rush that day, they file, instead of filing it under Christian, they file it under David. So now we can't find his file. We can't prove to the auditors that this person really exists. That costs us $10,000. Electronic filing, we just search David Christian. It looks through every record and pulls up all the records that say David Christian. Boom, here you go.
Yeah.
The efficiency, it's on your desk, right? You can't find the file. If it's in a computer, boom, it's right there.
It's right there.
Gotcha.
Let me just say this. You know, with the advent of implementing technology as you plan, that's expensive. So you're talking servers and a whole bunch of. I mean, so where does the money come for this kind of thing?
But you know what, David? The funny thing is we have the equipment already. The BIT, they have a huge server, okay, for all government services, and the government is still, all these departments contract out to store their stuff in the cloud. We have our own cloud in the Virgin Islands. People don't know that. The Department of Education already have a website for every school. They don't update them because it's like Greek to them. You know, people are going out looking for school. They can't find it.
Okay.
The technology, right, to video conference. Think about it. You know, people say, oh, you know, video conferences are expensive. Yeah, Seaborn is more expensive. So instead of an employee getting up, waiting to the airport for an hour, getting on a plane, going to St. Thomas, by the time they get to work, it's probably 10:30. They work until about 2:33. Then you got to go back to the seaplane.
Yeah.
They could sit. When I was at Labor, right, I could sit at my desk, open up my iPad, and be in my EDC meeting in St. Thomas. I could open up my iPad and be in my Port Authority meeting at the airport because they're all IP connects.
Yeah.
From our desk, we had a server at BIT that had 10 ports. So you didn't have to report to the governor, to the Vitima meeting. You could access it from your office. Think about how much money that saves.
So we have the infrastructure in place to now get DMV online. In a sense that now I can register my car online. I mean, is that what you're saying?
We see, but that now the new systems. So I see what you're saying, to access them. So I've actually had a conversation with a guy that said that they would do the entire thing for free, but every transaction they want a percentage of the money.
Okay.
Now you could do it that way, which is turnkey.
Yeah.
Or every individual department has their own set of money and is billing their entire IT infrastructure. In Labor alone, right, we had Virgin Islands Electronic Workforce System. That's a $300,000 a year entity. Then we had Vidolas that runs the unemployment system. That's the upgrades are not $300,000-$400,000 for everyone you have to do. Then you have BIT was email server, right? That's external. Then you had the website, right? That's something else.
The main government website.
Yeah. No. Labor website.
Oh, the labor website.
The labor
Just the
website.
Labor Department.
Then we
Okay.
had, and I'm probably forgetting systems that we have. So just labor is a very tiny department. There's an enormous commitment to technology. Before I got there, we were paying $300,000 a year to host our website.
Yeah.
And we took care of that. We saved that money. So think about this, right? Every government office has all their because BIT hasn't really been successful in consolidating all those services. So each one of those offices has their own IT infrastructure with their own professionals working on that system every day.
Yeah.
You know,
Sort of a separate department. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you see?
Go ahead.
How do you see we fixing our GRS system here?
Yeah, I was just
Getting
gonna
this
ask
You're
thing
gonna like my idea.
right back up to par the way it is.
So the real deal is, and I'm gonna say this fast, but how much time we got? We got time.
You got time. You got time.
30
The real
minutes.
deal is no one is gonna its unfunded liability is $3 billion.
3 billion.
No one is gonna give us $3 billion.
Okay.
Right? So my idea is let's freeze it for 10 years at least. Right?
Okay.
If you're retired, your payment stays the same. If you're vested, you continue to pay into the system until you retire.
Okay.
If you're not vested yet, any money you've invested, we convert into a 401k. Then we still need at least $600-800 million to make the system
Come up.
viable again.
Right.
So there's a couple of ways to get that money. The first way is expand our rum production. We give Diageo as well as Crucian Rum a couple $1 million every year to promote rum drinking in the United States. The more rum they sell, the more money we make. Diageo is among the top 10. Crucian is not. We need people to drink more Crucian rum. So that will help us with our rum production. We need to actively go out and recruit another distillery. Because if we add another distillery, it's another $60 million or so minimum into our coffers.
Okay.
And then the third thing, as you know, 29 states already have legalized marijuana, right? But the federal government has not. So you have all these businesses in the states that have this excess cash that they can't put into the system.
Okay.
Solution. The Virgin Islands opens up the first trademark registry for cannabis products. And it will be a nationwide registry. So if you develop a particular type of strain that's good for pain, it's a topical medication, cream that helps your skin. If it's something, an eye drop you put in your eye, if it's an oil that helps with nausea, or if it's something that you smoke and it's a particular type of weed, cannabis strain, the patent is registered here.
Okay.
Now, every time somebody uses that product, that patent, just like McDonald's, right? There's a franchise fee associated with that.
Okay.
So if you're a dispensary in California, you have a research facility in St. Thomas or St. Croix that develops all your strains. Once you patent that strain now, every time you sell that, you pay your St. Thomas business a patent, your St. Croix business a patent, your St. John business a patent. That patent has to stay in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, but that patent has some value, some monetary value.
Exactly.
Okay.
How is
now
the local man gonna benefit from that too? All
because
in our
listen
midst?
now. So now the encouragement for them is you're going to get a 50% tax break. They get to pay the franchise fee, right? And we collect the taxes on the franchise fee. So 29 states and suppliers paying patents back to the Virgin Islands in franchise fees is easily $30-40 million a year, and I'm being conservative, right? And the deal is for the life of that development of that product, it stays in the Virgin Islands. So here now is a stream of $40 million that is money available to float the bond to get the retirement system. Now,
Can that be done in 4 years?
why not?
Okay.
I mean, it's just will, you know. I mean, have you heard anybody else come up with anything else?
No, but you know, it's just
So we
wanting to see change.
So we already have the research and technology park. We just need to change the legislation to allow for cannabis research, and at the same time, we need to do something about the situation in the Virgin Islands, because right now we've created a situation where it's a misdemeanor to have less than an ounce of weed. But you're creating a market for an illegal substance. You're making it now, it's not a felon to have this weed. You're creating a market because now people want the weed.
Yeah.
Growing it is illegal. Shipping it in is illegal. So you actually entrapping people into an economic situation. So I think that, well, I know that we need to move on this as quickly as possible, because that's not a big window. You know, things are moving along fast, and it doesn't have to be just for cannabis. It could be for any medicinal product.
Okay, I got you.
Right?
Okay.
So,
okay.
All right. The mental health issue has been a serious problem here in the Virgin Islands. And now, especially as these two hurricanes are passed us by, we have seen it's compounded. Every day we see new
faces on the street.
Walking the streets, people just going out of themselves, just coming out of themselves, and they're getting more and more relevant now today. What is your, and we don't have a system in place right now at all to address that issue. As governor, what would your issues, what would your recommendations be to address mental health illness in the territory?
Well, I don't have to have a recommendation, because there's already been a commission that was established that has done a 5-year strategic plan to bring us into mental health compliance. All I need to do,
but we are not there.
Exactly.
We are not doing nothing.
We need to execute
So
it.
you like that plan?
I do like the plan. I mean, I would add on some things. My vision is that there's an old government house up there in Bon Esperance. And I think what we, and people say mental health, right? There are people who may have chronic mental illness. There are people who...
Well, I'm not just, it's a whole...
Who may have an episode or may have a drug addiction that's created an
mental
episode.
Illness, exactly.
So my proposal is that we create a facility that is separated and can address these issues, along with some part of the facility that's kind of, what do you call that, a halfway house for people who could come in and out of the system. And we create that up in the old government property up there. But the funding is a problem. So, I mean, for me, as governor, the most important thing for me is to aggressively go out there and attract new capital. Now, we're going to get some hurricane money in here. And I know the governor has $400 million slated for broadband, VINGN. I would have much rather seen that money used for mental health or homelessness or something else. But the thing is money. And then the other thing is professionals. It's very hard to attract therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers to work in the field to really take care of these problems. But a centralized location in St. Croix, because we need job creation over here.
Yes.
One of the things in the prison, right? We need to bring back those prisoners. That's job creation. We're powering somebody else's economy with those prisoners away. And then approaching mental health from a community health standpoint, because when you go to the schools, you talk to people in the supermarket, and like you said, people are suffering from all different kinds of stressors that are creating situations.
Right.
And we have this stigma about mental illness that definitely could be combated with education. But we need to really go to the schools and identify these young people at an early age and get them the help they need. Up to almost 80% of the people that we have incarcerated have either a mental illness or some form of mental illness or a learning disability, and that's really sad.
Exactly.
That's really sad.
And never been addressed. That's why it escalated that problem.
Yeah.
Anyhow, public safety, crime, guns. We don't make no guns here. We don't have no gun factories here in the Virgin Islands. And it seems like more guns to me in the territory more than these people. How can we control that, stem that, make the place safer for everybody?
I like simple solutions, right? The majority of the guns that come in to our islands come through the mail and through the airport, right? So why don't we just put a big X-ray machine on all the luggage coming in?
So they don't have that?
No, they just put it on the belt.
Okay.
And then my running mate, Senator Roach, actually had a piece of legislation saying that there should be a substation at every airport.
Okay.
That as soon as you get to the island, you have to turn your gun in. Right now it says, I think it's 72 hours you have.
Yeah, you have some time
Right?
after arriving, yeah.
But now the legislation didn't pass, but to have them register immediately. So you come out the plane, it's right there. You could declare that you have those weapons. Because, and David, to your point, yeah, like, why hasn't everybody thought of that? Like, all we got to do is put our own TSA machine on the other side.
Yeah.
And then we'll know if you have guns in your luggage, if you have bullets in your luggage.
Yeah.
Because it's perfectly legal to buy a gun in Florida, declare it at American Airlines in your bag, and ship it here. And American Airlines has no obligation to tell the government of the Virgin Islands that you had a gun.
Yeah, as long as you declare it, yeah.
Can I say one more thing, though?
Yes.
And the crime problem, we know the crime problem, how to solve it now, right? Put everybody to work. Since everybody went to work cutting trees and pulling up to everybody going to bed in the night early, tired. Simple solution. Let's put them to work.
Very simple.
That's
Very
the
simple.
truth.
And keep them working.
And keep them working.
Keep them working.
Let me ask you a question. So you're a small businessman,
Right.
and have you? One of the things that we were talking about is technology to register your business online. But do you have any more details on helping small business get started here?
I think the other thing is I was chairman of the Government Development Bank for 8 years. Access to capital. We did a study of lending patterns in the Virgin Islands. In the entire Virgin Islands, there was only like $600 million of commercial debt. That's all the hotels, all the amusement, entertainment,
really? Okay.
restaurants, everything. Only 600 million. So
I mean, you would consider that to be low, right?
that is extremely low.
Okay.
So
Okay.
banks aren't lending to businesses. In this administration, the GRS stopped lending to people too. And in order to keep an economy rolling, you need access to capital.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't have that. So we have to work on figuring out ways to create that access. When I was at the EDA, we had the State Small Business Credit Initiative. And what that did is that the federal government gave us money to shore up loans, to back a loan up to 80% a surety capital, collateral, so that businesses could then borrow from the bank.
Okay.
And then a lot of it too, in terms of businesses, is doing things that policy that shapes growth. So one of the things I would like to do is create an immediate tax credit for export businesses.
Okay.
So if you're exporting anything above a certain, let's say, 1,000 units or 1,000,000 units a year, then you don't pay gross receipts because you're attracting new capital into the island, right? So if you make some awesome peanut punch that you sell in 1 million, we want you 1 million bottles in the Caribbean a year. We want you to do that. We want our Virgin Islanders to remember Puerto Rico has 3 million people, and they're just right there. We don't take. How are they taking advantage of our market, and we're not taking advantage of theirs?
Yeah.
Why we have a rich Hispanic heritage, right? We don't make pastele, plantain. We like coquito, but we don't sell it to 3 million people who are right next door. We don't sell them anything. They're selling the Niagara water. That's all Puerto Rican. All that Coke, all of that stuff comes from Puerto Rico and comes in here, and we sell it. Why aren't we selling water to them? It's interesting that we only look at the interior market of the Virgin Islands when there are like 60 million people in the Caribbean.
Yeah, lots of people, yeah.
And we have people from everywhere here,
Right, definitely.
As much as people talk about the Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo has 10 million people.
Yeah.
That's a huge market.
Of course,
Yeah.
right. there itself.
Do we sell them anything?
And we see a whole bunch of their products coming to this territory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of switch the thinking and really make people see, well, okay, how do we do that? I was just at Leatherback Brewing. We have a brewery here on the island now. Some local people.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they started a beer here, which is great. I went in there and thought it was actually an off-island establishment, but when the guy You know, it was
local products, our local material ingredient.
Yeah, they have a lemongrass beer called Sazon, man. It's like 6% alcohol.
Okay.
I took a little sip. I was floored. They had to take me out of there. You know, that's an export product, right? The honey, the former commissioner Akil Peterson, virgin fresh honey. I thought that was the best. You ever taste that honey? You know that honey is Virgin Islands honey tastes so good.
Yes.
It's gone by the wayside. We're not marketing it the way we did before. We have like all kinds of pepper sauce here. You see anybody growing peppers? The aje dulce pepper that we produce, right? The little Spanish sweet pepper. I can't find that in a grocery store. A little box of the other kind of peppers like $3.50. Thyme is $4 for a little plastic thing.
Yeah.
Something we used to buy in the yard.
Yeah.
You know, basil.
Yeah.
So the potential, the market is there.
Okay.
We just got to be able to see that. And that's a mentality. You know, I tell people that we were very successful as a Virgin Islands. We trained a generation of people to grow up and go work for the government for 30 years and retire. We were good at that.
Yeah.
That happened.
Very good.
Now, one of the things that I do is I just resigned as executive director of Junior Achievement. We teach kids how to build businesses. We need to build and grow and educate a generation of entrepreneurs. Put it in kids' head from time they're young. You're going to own your own business. You're going to employ people. You're going to have an export product. And that's how it becomes a reality. We do this thing called Innovation Camp. And we take 40 to 50 students from public and private high school and put them in a room for the day. And their mission is to come up with an innovative product that would revolutionize the Virgin Islands in terms of being a recyclable or doing something revolutionary in terms of social impact. And in 2 hours, these kids come up with the most amazing ideas, and then they have to present to see who has the best business plan, like Shark Tank. The potential, and in 2 hours, right? Kids that never knew one another before.
Yes,
right? So the potential is there. We just have to create the stage, give them the access to capital and the training, and a nice environment for growth in terms of business. And we're on. You think about it, if one Virgin Island kid come up with an idea like Uber, all of our problems solved in terms of taxi,
Yeah.
Because if Uber was being run out of the Virgin Islands, could you imagine how much money we collect in tax every year?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. What about if here in the territory we don't elect an attorney general, we select them. If you become governor, would you change that term, or would you keep that? Would you keep that still running the same way, and why?
I believe in evolution of government, right? It's like we go to Iraq and we topple the dictator, right? And institute democracy. And people don't understand democracy. They're from a different type of government. A transition is better, which is why I support reapportionment, by the way. So I think that we should move to a system that first allows for attorney generals to be appointed for 6-year terms by governors, and that cannot be removed without cause, right? So once you appoint the attorney general, for 6 years, they have that post. At the end of the 6 years, the governor is reelected, he could appoint them again. But if that attorney general that's appointed in that governor's last 2 years will be on board for 4 years of the incoming governor's tenure. So there's some autonomy there in terms of I'm not taking care of you, you ain't taking care of me.
Because you did an overlap?
Right, because of the overlap.
But at the bottom line, Mr. Byran, they're going to still be working for the governor. They're not doing the...
But they cannot be removed.
Yeah,
remember.
because that... But
just like the Van Beaverhout, the Inspector General.
Right, but I mean, isn't it the same kind of situation that we have in here, that there's so much internal government issues that's happening, and the Attorney General is not addressing them. They're not doing anything to bring these things into the forefront because okay, basically what I'm trying to say, the degree of separation between street crime and white collar crime.
Right.
In the territory is no separation.
Right.
The men them do what they do. In the jacket and tie, they get away. Me, I go here and I do what I do, I get locked down.
You're right.
And what kind of message we sending to our youth here today to say, what, I mean, I could do a certain crime and don't get no punishment for it, and I could do certain crime and I have to be locked down for it. So what is the justification? So at the end of the day, it seems like the Attorney General is just there to just process whatever the governor tells him to do. And Attorney General is supposed to be the highest law, the interest of the people.
Exactly.
So to me, this system here gonna continue. We gonna continue to have corruption here if that continues. Only Kamekata again. This is only Kamekata perspective.
So, okay, but I said the same thing, and this is my concern. You running for elected office here. You raise money. You need political favor. It's almost worse because instead of having one boss, you get 50,000 voters as your boss, and you know how you position yourself on items. You could get attorney generals that simply just run a very savvy and a rich campaign that, you know, like some of the campaigns now, throwing big bands, everybody come out and dance, elect a attorney general, and they're the most corrupt person in the world.
Isn't it that's what we're still doing with the governors and these senators, that we're going through the same thing every 4 years, every 2 years, that we keep covering the same process?
You said it, I didn't. But I mean, at least through this process that I'm talking about with a 6-year term, even if you have an appointment by the governor, it still has to be vetted by the Senate, right, and approved. And then if you want to remove them, you have to have cause, and they have to be approved by the legislature
to do that. Yeah.
Right. So I think you have enough balance there now, and it doesn't become a political football, which is my concern. Because
but you're still appointing them, so it's still going to be the same issue of going back to the same thing again.
But think about this, and I like this scenario. The attorney general, the map appoint, would still be there for 2 years in my term.
Yeah, but he ain't doing no job. I don't think he's doing any. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. We have an election board that was called into session. Certain things that are taking place within the community. That is the people's interest. Again, he's the highest law in the land, and this man sits quiet and don't say and don't not himself give an opinion to what's taking place.
Right.
So
and he doesn't do that because
this is my point.
He doesn't want to go against the governor.
Right.
Yes,
I agree with you. I just don't know that election is the best method.
You don't think that's the best method to elect? So we have 3 people running to be the attorney general, and he or she has to present themselves, and then come election day, we vote on who we want to be the attorney general.
Yeah,
You don't think that is a good idea? You don't think it'll work? It's a waste of time.
The government gonna go back to the same corruption to how we been run, and the people gonna continue to suffer again, Brian, because again he's under whoever gave him that job. It's not the people went out there and vote and say, well, you know what, this is the man or the woman that we entrusted to that gonna do the job to protect the people. Let me give you an example. We had an individual here in the territory, was the chief of staff for the lieutenant governor and still on the election board. Mm-hmm. Answer this question honestly. In any part of the world, would that ever happen?
We elected him. I mean, and I have to say that all the time because and I am glad you made that example because we would elect them. And I mean, if people... When you look at the most confusion we have is with these elected boards, you know, because they really don't have anybody everybody's that man unto themselves, you know.
But they still have to have some law that they have to follow, and they're not following.
Really? But you saying that at the same time, you saying, but they're not following the law.
I can't go there and drive. If I drive my car and a man stop me, I gonna get penalized for it. So that's why I keep going back to this degrees of separation between public corruption.
I think the public corruption that happens because of 2 reasons. We don't have an appropriate level of checks and balances. You will never hear another gubernatorial candidate say that, but as governor of the Virgin Islands, I am going to move to decentralize the power of the governor of the Virgin Islands. The governor of the Virgin Islands is the most powerful governor under the flag. And you have to take away some of that power from him. You have to give some of that power to the Senate. You have to give some of that power back to the people because it has created a situation of tyranny in our islands where you can have a governor that terrorizes people, threatening people with bombs and missiles like a terrorist, and able to deny jobs and contracts, able to push political favors or disfavor I mean, and a lot of us have been victims of this, whether we were discriminated on because we didn't support them and not getting jobs that we were qualified for, or contracts that we rightfully bid, or not being able to access certain benefits from the government because you don't find political favor.
Yeah.
And that has to end. And the only way that ends is that you decentralize some of that power.
Okay.
You take away a lot of that oomph that the governor has, the power to hire and fire a lot of employees that really don't
deserve what? Just
no, you should be in charge of your cabinet.
Yeah.
You know, people need to be judged on their merit.
Real quick, any thoughts on the hospital? The hospital situation is very critical.
2 days out.
It's very critical. I sort of have an inside touch with the hospital there, and the nurses are working long hours. I mean, you know, can we get that?
Any plan? Any
so
plan
to get the hospital more
solution.
stabilized?
So
there's the medical tourism. I mean, these are all things that, if we did, could help.
Okay, so like you said that, right? I've actually started conversations with people to talk about two things. The first thing is partnering with an outside private sector hospital to bring confidence back to our healthcare system.
Right.
We spend so much money at Cleveland Clinic using our healthcare plans from the Virgin Islands. So the first thing is confidence. It's not for the lack of confidence in our Virgin Islands professionals, but the perception that you get substandard care if you use our healthcare professionals. It's just branding, okay? Because people go all the way away, they tell them the same thing the doctor here tell them, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that, beyond partnering, is if you look at the hospital budgets, we spend $60 million thereabouts each hospital. That's $120 million, and $160 million in insurance from Cigna with the government alone. So that's $280 million in that pool. We need to make better use of that money, and we need to open access healthcare. So one of the things I would like to do is see if we can create a kind of how would I call it, a universal healthcare program in the Virgin Islands.
All right, hold on. We got a call coming in here. Let's see if we can get that.
Okay, see if the person answers first.
It's Your Perspective Talk Show.
Good night.
Hello?
Yes, hello,
Hey,
good night.
Bluffin.
Is the show still on?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. You're live right now.
Do you have a question for the?
I can't hear anything.
Yes, I have a question for the candidate. It's in regard to medicine. What I have seen in the Virgin Islands, is that we don't do a good job mentoring the current generation, and people go to the grave with a lot of information. We need to start sharing this information and grooming our future leaders. What do you have in place when it comes to preparing our young future leaders of the Virgin Islands?
Excellent question.
Okay.
For me, in terms of preparing the future leader of the Virgin Islands, if somebody was pointing out to me the other day that Alison Digazon, who was on your show the other day, yeah, she used to work for me. You know that guy named Sanis, who running for lieutenant governor?
Yes.
Yeah, Department of Labor worked for me too. You know that guy Ricky Dean Andrews, who's running for the Senate? Yeah, worked for me at Department of Labor as well too. So I mean, and then you could go back to labor and look at the amount of young professionals that we have developed and gave opportunity through our department. One of the youngest IT specialists out there, we gave them that opportunity. But for me, I got this idea from one of my cabinet members, Chris Finch, who told me about City Year. And what I would like to see is every year we send it out. We do it with Lift Now, Labor Investing for Tomorrow, where you have to apply to get in this special summer program. But this will be a year-long program that start every September and end the following August, where we take every department will get 2 positions that will pay a decent salary, $35,000, $40,000, and it would be awarded to college graduates returning to the Virgin Islands for 1-year internship. They'd be assigned specific you'd have to be in your field. So if you're in DPNR, you have to be in planning or environmental control or something.
Okay.
You'd be assigned to a commissioner, and that commissioner would be tasked with giving you our responsibility, exposing you to board meetings, helping you network and connect to your community. So after a year, right, you have 40 individuals now that have a year of experience at a high level working for a commissioner. They could take that, they could go back to the States with it, or they could find private placement, or they could find a position in the department. That would help us retain Virgin Islanders, right? And it would help us prepare. And the other thing I want to say is this governor put a bunch of retirees to work in leadership positions in the government. And that's sad. I was part of...
That was a slap in the face.
I was part of a core of cabinet members in the DeYoung administration that were under 40. Myself, Beverly Nicholson Doherty, Darrell Smiles, Lynn Millen, Kenny Herman, Novell Francis, Alicia Barnes. And you can see these people now in our community.
Yeah.
The bad part is people brandish us like we're the young people. We were just young professionals working to help the Virgin Islands. We believed in the leadership of John DeYoung, certainly, but we are our own people. I'm running for governor now. I'm Albert Bryan. I have my own agenda. I have certainly things I've learned from that administration, and I would like to continue, and some things that I don't.
Yeah.
So giving young people opportunity is key. Like I said, I work with Junior Achievement. We've taken kids to Mexico, Jamaica, Brazil to compete in international competitions of business. That is important to me. As a Virgin Islander, I have participated in the Albert Sheen scholarship program for 15 years. It's one of my most favorite things to do. Seeing all the Sals and the Vals and all the top 10% of Virgin Islanders interview every year for scholarships. I have seen the future, my boy, and it's bright.
Let me ask you this too. Quick question too, because we have a lot of geniuses in this place here.
Oh yeah.
And we just let them go. They go to school, they get the degrees, and we just leave them go away. What it gonna attract them to come back home, to have these young minds, as you say, to bring them back into the territory? Because you can't bring these college grads back, engineers, doctors, to pay them $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
What's gonna be the incentive for them to come
That's
back
the problem
home?
right there. They want to come back, but they're not getting paid enough.
I think you have to be creative. One of the things that we want to do, Brian Roach as governor, is to leverage land that we have. So we have a lot of teachers leaving all the time. Imagine if we were able, instead of to give raises, were to give people an opportunity to be landowners. So if you could prove that you're going to build your house, you have the plans and stuff within a year, the government will deed you a quarter acre to build your home, right? That's an incentive for young people. Looking at our urban areas, our downtown areas, and building the kind of buildings that attract millennials. They like to be together. They want to eat, work, and play. They like internet, funky little places to go, walkways, places to ride their bikes. You have to attract them. We don't really spend a lot of time creating the kind of atmosphere to attract young people. Young people spend money. They build homes. They buy cars. They make children. We don't have a strategy for that. If you're talking to people who want to be governor and they're not thinking along these types of lines, especially for St. Croix, where I figure we need to attract 20,000 earners.
Quick.
We need to attract people who want to build lives here, because, but then if these same people, remember, when they get educated, right, they can work for their company in the States and move back home and work out of their house.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
But if they could go in the park and have Wi-Fi access,
even better still.
Exactly. They could go on a beach, and do their work and take a little swim. The freedom and the beauty of our islands. If you could work from anywhere, why not work from here?
Yeah.
But we have to envision it. We have to start moving our priorities and our strategies towards doing those things. Otherwise, it can't happen.
Yeah. Two more things, real quick.
And I got one more. Go ahead.
Y'all having fun, huh?
Yes.
Two more things to me. The first one is your running mate. Give us a little quick synopsis. I know he's a senator now.
Attorney, former professor at the university, former editor at the Daily News, former legal counsel for education.
Okay.
Here's a gentleman of almost impeccable integrity. He was our number one pick Senator Roach. And he has this awesome deep voice, like, you know, his voice is even deeper than mine.
Okay.
Great guy. Our policy really aligns. He and I both see the importance and the priority of education. Him being an educator himself, really passionate about letting people know that this administration is going to be an administration where you will be judged by your resume, not your DNA.
Okay.
That you will not lose your job because you didn't support me. That we welcome opposition because opposition shows you the other side. It shows you what other people are thinking. It gives you another perspective. It helps you to design your program so it doesn't fall through whatever the opposition is saying it's going to.
Okay.
And then Tregenza, Senator Roach, is also a people person.
Okay.
Very caring, feeling,
Okay.
passionate person. And like I tell people, he represents the best of us because like our anthem says, whole lot of welcome to one and all. Here is a gentleman who originally came from St. Kitts at a very young age, embraced St. Thomas, fell in love, and the people there has invited him to serve at one of the highest levels as senator, and now and he's so humble. That's part of it. He's just so humble.
He's a humble man.
I had to convince him not to be my running mate, but that the people of the Virgin Islands needed a team like Byran and Roach to really level the playing field, bring some vision and some integrity back to government.
Okay. Soup?
The insurance, because since Mr. Roach will be your lieutenant governor, the insurance issue has been a very serious issue here in the territory since after these two hurricanes has exposed a lot of things. The insurance company were here. A lot of residents who won't get no help. They won't get any answered for simple little policies. They were holding policies and the policies were not effective. They were underinsured. How can we assure that these things are not going to happen under this administration?
Preparedness is the first thing. This administration completely botched the preparedness part for the hurricane. If you task them, they said there's no territorial emergency operation plan. That's bogus. We practiced that plan when I was in office at Labor. Every department has their own module. I think Labor was 13 or something like that, and it tells you everything that you have to do for a disaster before, during, and after. And if everybody does what they're supposed to do, the impact of the storm will be minimized. Things like, So in terms of the insurance, I think number one, being able to get into the island faster on a whole. I mean, remember, St. Thomas Airport was closed for weeks because they couldn't put up the fence. Right. People forget, if we had faster response, the recovery process would have been a lot faster. But I think one of the things that we really need to do is we need to have insurance companies every 5 years or so, really as the homeowner to make a new assessment, because there are properties that were built 20 years ago when construction was maybe $100 a square foot, $50 a square foot, whatever. In today's market, it's $150 a square foot. Right. But no one has updated their records over the time.
Yeah.
And, doing that is expensive too, because, at the end of the day, there's going to come a time where people are going to realize that insuring stuff in the Virgin Islands is expensive. So if you want to get your house insured or what, that's a barrier for you to buy a home now. Yeah. Because instead of being $3,000, it's $10,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on a federal level, I think one of the things that we need to do, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this, is years ago they implemented national flood insurance for the coastal states and the Virgin Islands susceptible to hurricanes. We need to pressure Congress to implement national windstorm insurance. Because the billions of dollars that they spent, right? If we could get windstorm insurance for any home in the Virgin Islands for $700 in combination with Florida, Louisiana, Texas, all the other places, it would lessen the impact on the federal government in the case of a storm. Because we've already spent $2 billion. Because MAP said we spent $1.6 billion in January when he did the State of the Territory, right? At least $400 million since then. Yes. So $2 billion already gone, and the states is more. So it's time for a national windstorm insurance, which will lower the cost of our insurance.
Overall, yeah.
Yeah, and allow people to buy homes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Renewable energy.
Huh?
Renewable energy. Energy.
Yeah. Real quick, energy. WAPA, WAPA is down there. And
We've been beat up. We getting
we getting
blows
beat up.
right now. Hard blows.
Well, we're getting blows because the administration dropped the ball. We were going along so well in terms of our goal to reduce our dependence on fossil fuel, right? We did the people forget, I was part of the program to put the solar water heaters on through WAPA when our bills were going through the roof. We got the money, right, to do it. We trained the people to put them on, and then we gave the loans to people in order to put them on their homes, right? A complete ecosystem of economy. And we build the one over here, the solar farm over here. We throw away the king grass. People say it wasn't going to work, but that was part of the multi-thing approach for energy. Multi-plant approach for energy.
So that's been totally squashed?
It looks so. I don't see nobody's, because the energy problem went away. The administration didn't prioritize. Remember, we're supposed to have the wind farms too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We didn't do that at
we
all.
went to propane,
right?
Propane, which is another subsidiary of fossil fuel.
Yes. That same Governor Mapp was the one who said we were not going to go to combustion in his first state of the territory, that we were not going to do waste to energy based on combustion of any kind, right? Look how much fuel we would have had now if we had a waste to energy plant that could burn some of this wood.
Okay.
Right?
You're talking about all the debris from the hurricane.
Hello.
Yes.
So we shipping fuel to other places that's going to cost us like $400 million or something crazy like that. Think about what we could have done if we had that, right? So we have stopped our energy trek because the light bill went down by 30%. But we have a lot more work to do. We're to the point now, right, where we need to start to figure out how we could build energy grids into every home in the Virgin Islands, because we already have energy.
Yes.
Almost everybody have a generator now since the storm, right? So here's the next part now. How do we start to attract the type of cheap technology that would allow people to power their homes with battery and solar for a couple hours a day, right? And start contributing to the grid. It's coming. People, you can resist it how much. Once something goes down a little bit, we don't bother. Look, gas right back up where it used to be, right?
Yeah, that's another scary thing too.
And ain't nothing happening. So
it's nothing happening,
right?
But it's up to us as policymakers, right, to lead, to anticipate the problems that are coming. Gas are going back up. Our light bill was going to go back up. To anticipate and keep working on the problem, not because we see the light at the end of the tunnel means we go stop. We got to get out in the light. Yeah.
Okay, our guest tonight is Albert Byran Jr. Real quick, just sort of summarize what you're trying to do.
What's your intention?
What's your intention? Just bring it on home, and we'll call it George.
So my name is Albert Byran, and I want to be your governor. I believe that we need the transformative and the innovation that the Brian Roach team brings, and the management experience, the education, the sincerity, and the integrity back to the office. I think that we can do this using the tools that we have. We have so many dead assets, from that 10,000-foot runway at the airport to the empty ports in Christiansted, to all of the fantastic opportunities in tourism that could be in St. Thomas. Our 5 tax incentive programs, $120 million invested in our fiber optic. We have to move our system, our government, our education, our healthcare into the 21st century. It is time to elect a government that anticipates the problems. It's time to elect a government that wants a Virgin Islands, not just for some, but for all of us. Thank you very much.
All right, our guest tonight is Albert Byran Jr. He is running for governor of the Virgin Islands here, coming up in November. His running mate is Senator Roach. He is
August 4th primary. Don't forget, I'm running as a Democrat.
Okay, I was going to ask you that too. You're running as a Democrat. Okay. So on that, Soup, any final words?
Rastafari live, the Most High guide and protect, and I wish you all the best, brother.
Same here, man. One Perfect Love is our praise and his blessings. When you put it all together, you get one perfect love, man. So on that note, we'll be back on Thursday. We got another guest lined up, someone else running for office. And so this is the It's Your Perspective Talk Show every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 340-201-9005. Like us on Facebook It's the It's Your Perspective Talk Show. On that note, we're out. Peace.
Virgin Islands, sweet like sugar cane.